On today's show, the Cavs showed up. The Cavs did the thing they actually really needed to do and won Game 5. We'll talk about it, who stepped up, and more on today's Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That is $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I'm Chris Manning. That's Evan Dammarrell. Cavs won Game 5, Evan, and I think the biggest thing you can say about it is pretty simple. The Cavs, after frankly being embarrassing for 2 games, not looking like a real basketball team, rose to the moment, played a very physical game, overcame some late lead changes in Paolo Banchero's shot making and all of that, and won a really close, tough playoff game. And now they're up in the series and have control over the series with 2 possible more games to go.
Yeah, I think this is really impressive just with the fact that the Cavs were very aware of the fact that they weren't good against Orlando. They were not very good in Orlando, I should say, rather. And they talked about how they need to play at pace, poise, need to get in their spots more properly. We saw a lot of that in the first quarter, definitely saw that taper off in the second quarter. And I think, for me at least, no, it wasn't perfect. This wasn't a complete effort on Cleveland's part at all. But what really stood out is when it was 85-85, like you said, Paolo Banchero had some really good shot making. I think Franz Wagner was playing very well too all throughout this game, especially down the stretch for Orlando. But when the game got really tight, the Cavs didn't buckle, they didn't cave or anything like that, and they kind of just really grittied it out and really found a way to dig deep and win. And because there is a lot of pressure in this game, like if you win Game 5, you're more likely to win the series because you have a leg up on the opponent. So yeah, I think that's just the most impressive part for me, and I think just now, let's see if they can do it again in Orlando on Friday.
That'll be our next show, is getting you ready for Game 5, and we'll recap Game 5 on Friday. That'll be on Friday late, going into Saturday. That'll be our 5th episode of the week. I think that, Evan, what I think just remains, it has to just remain confounding, I think, because they just don't show this consistently. Like, we're going to talk about Garland, we're going to talk about Mobley, and those guys are like part of what I'm about to say. Where is this consistently? Like, it is whiplash inducing to see the way the Cavs played in 2 games in Orlando, and then they look like an entirely different team at home. I understand sometimes you look better at home and you look better on the road. That happens. But this is like 2 different teams, 2 different functioning, it's 2 different sets of people, it feels like, in some ways. And I understand the home thing is a boost and the crowd was great, all of that. Makes it even more baffling that they played that poorly in Orlando, that like they had this game in them, this performance in them, that they made some adjustments that I think were really smart, in part due to some injury, but I think also just pulling the plug on some guys that had been there longer this year, like George Niang, for instance. And going things like, where was this the whole time? That is almost like the most confounding part to me, because if this was in there, how does that just dissipate over 2 games where it looks like you're dead in the water in a series where you're still being outscored overall? Like, the Cavs are like probably going to win the series now. They're up 3-2, have one more home game. It's possible they win this series and are outscored over the course of 7 games, which is bizarre.
Yeah, it is bizarre when you say that out loud, but then you really think about how Orlando boat raced Cleveland in Orlando, so it does add a little bit of context to it too. But yeah,
that says something. You get boat raced, yeah.
But like you said, there were some smart adjustments. I think going with Marcus Morris Sr. over George Niang was really just an intelligent adjustment on JV Bickerstaff's part. Morris Sr. said post game that he had been watching the Magic get a little too cute from the sidelines, and he wanted to do something about it. I think he was playing in that physicality, that edge. I think scoring wise, you got as much as you could from a guy who hadn't played at all in the postseason to that point, and I think you have to be happy with the end result just because he may not have the familiarity that George Niang has for playing the entire season versus Morris Sr. being a very late season signing. But it is interesting to me just because the Cavs were out. We'll talk about this more, but they were without Jarrett Allen in this game, and they were able to kind of find a way to dig deep and win. Like they lost the rebounding margin to Orlando, like by 4 or 5, I believe. And usually, whoever won the rebounding edge in these games in the series, like typically won the matchup over or the game overall. So that's just like a weird anomaly stat. But like this is just kind of like one of those more impressive wins where Cleveland, yeah, they've been outgunned. Yeah, they've been kind of roughed up every step of the way. I think Darius Garland finally stepping up and emerging. I think Max Strus kind of finding his groove again and just not just impacting the game with his shooting, but like in so many different ways helps a lot too. But I think this was kind of just like a tonal reset for Cleveland, just kind of wash off the stink of 2 frustrating losses in Orlando, and the luxury of having a few days off and some film study probably helped a bit too, and also Darius Garland being self-aware of the fact that and by self-aware, like he was getting frustrated by the fact that like he knew he needed to shoot more, and you definitely saw that right away in game 5.
Cavs starting lineup in this game with Jarrett Allen out with the rib issue. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus, Isaac Okoro gets the other start at forward, and Evan Mobley. Marcus Morris plays 25 minutes off the bench, which so more than Okoro, and Karis LeVert plays 19 off the bench, so Morris played more than him as well. No George Niang. Tristan Thompson gives you close to 9 minutes, and Sam Merrill plays about 5. That's a pretty tight rotation, and look, credit to JB for this. Like he felt like he needed to throw the rotation that got them in trouble in Orlando out the window. I get like that's not an easy thing to do, to go to Niang and say you're not playing, to play Marcus Morris, necessarily more than LeVert, who's played more for you all year, who makes more money, all that stuff. But it was the right call. Morris gives you was 4-9, 2 of 5 from 3, gave you toughness, gave you some physicality. It's not the sexiest thing in the world, but like he gave you a really solid night. We'll see if it carries over, but for this game at least, those levers pulled were the right ones. And I think starting Okoro, despite the fact that he didn't shoot it well, despite the fact that he didn't give you a ton offensively, I do think that was the right call in the starting lineup instead of going with LeVert or going with someone else or going with Niang.
Yeah, or even just going with Tristan Thompson or, God, even Damian Jones just to stick with a 2 big look. Like, yeah, credit to JB Bickerstaff really leaned into going smaller and just kind of leaning on Evan Mobley as the primary big. Tristan Thompson did play well in the first half when he got his number called. I think he played like 8-9 legitimate minutes just throughout the game that gave the Cavs a bit of a spark just to, give Evan Mobley a bit of a breather, just because you're asking Evan Mobley to do quite a bit against an Orlando team that plays quite large. And I asked JB about this pregame, just when it came to like the difference they saw from Orlando in terms of just them swapping out Jonathan Isaac for Wendell Carter Jr. in the starting lineup, and Bickerstaff said like, oh yeah, it really just kind of mitigated our rebounding edge. It kind of allowed them to protect the rim a lot more, protect the paint, blah, blah, blah. But like, I think you notice in this matchup with the Magic being such a bigger team, going smaller is kind of a way to counteract them putting Carter Jr. in the starting 5. Like, sure, it's more of a traditional lineup that Orlando's running with instead of Jonathan Isaac out there at the 5, but the Cavs playing smaller kind of force some of those bigger players that the Magic have to defend in space and defend in isolation right away versus, letting them ease into what they have to do defensively. And I think it kind of disrupted the flow a little bit and did play a part in the fact that the Cavs put up 33 points in the first quarter and just kind of kept rolling from there.
Orlando offensively as well really struggled. 9 of 31 from 3. And I think the big favor in Orlando's favor that I think carried them a lot of this game, whereas it didn't go the Cavs' favor, was the free throw advantage. Orlando, 29 free throw attempts, 19 for Cleveland. Orlando had 7 more makes from the free throw line, with Banchero and Wagner both going 7 of 8 to lead the way. Donovan Mitchell took 10 free throws. No other Cavalier took more than 3, whereas like Jalen Suggs had 4 and Mo Wagner had 5 and whatnot. Evan, would you run with this rotation? We'll talk about this in the preview show for Game 5, but would you run with this same starting 5, this same rotation, if you're looking ahead to Game 5, just in a quick sense? Would that be the way you would lean?
If Jarrett Allen is unavailable, yeah. If you run with the same starting 5, I think this rotation more or less figures itself out the same way. You probably don't see Sam Merrill play if Allen is available, with Okoro going back to the bench. But Otherwise, yeah, I think this is pretty much sound, just because like Morris does have some juice, and he gave the Cavs plenty of juice in almost 26 minutes of action.
Yeah, I think particularly if Allen is even if Allen plays and doesn't look great, then I would be a little I might limit him if I had to. It's not great. All right, after this, Evan Mobley, speaking of Jarrett Allen, did the play of the game, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Game winning play at the very least. We'll talk about that after this. Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. You want to make mom smile? Start Mother's Day with flowers or surprise her with gifts from the brand she loves delivered the very same day with DoorDash. Pair flowers with a gift card so she can celebrate any way she wants. Is she a bookworm? Try a bookstore gift card. Does she love a good latte? Get a gift card to get her favorite get her to her favorite coffee shop. You can't go wrong. Shop with savings that would make her proud. With a Dash Pass membership, you'll save with a $0 delivery fee and a reduced service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees, including service fees, apply. Terms apply. Get a Mother's Day gift as unique as she is with DoorDash. Again, use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now on DoorDash. That's promo code LOCKEDONNBA. Order now using DoorDash. Terms apply. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, by the way, Evan, has the Cavs as 3.5-point underdogs for game 5. Already got a line. Feels right.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. Just that after how the first two games at Orlando went, the Cavs kind of have to buck the trend a little bit and prove, or hashtag let them know that they are able to play past what the odds makers are saying about them.
Over under 201, money line plus 130 for Cleveland, minus 154 for Orlando. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockdown and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Evan Mobley, I think, very simply delivered in the biggest game he's ever played in as a professional. 7 of 11, 13, 4 assists. Not the biggest game, 14 points. But he had that block, and I thought physically didn't get beat up. Like, had his moments where he got scored on by Paolo in particular, but Paolo just made tough shots over him. And there's nothing Mobley did in this game that I don't think passed the test of this guy rose up to the moment in some way. Like, yes, not the biggest. I didn't have 20 and 15 or something, but I thought played a really good game and was physical in the way he needed to be.
Yeah, I've never seen Derek Favors have a game like that before. So Evan Mobley, like you said, like counting stats wise, maybe isn't the most remarkable, but like the points, the rebounds were there. I think the block, and we'll talk about the block in a second here. But was just really just instrumental in kind of stymieing Orlando's offensive flow. I think he was a big factor in at least containing Wendell Carter Jr. scoring wise, or maybe like forcing Carter Jr. to kind of stick out to the perimeter, because Carter Jr. was 0-5 from out there. And sure, like you said, Banchero, oh my God, had 39 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, but Mobley did the best he could to make it as tough as possible. I think, the Cavs also tried to stick Isaac Okoro and Banchero quite a bit, and the issue is Okoro is defending his tail off for like the entire possession against Banchero, but Banchero is just bigger than Okoro, so he's able to kind of shoot and score over him a little bit easier despite that, just because of how gifted a scoring option Banchero can be. And I think that's maybe why you saw a lot more Marcus Morris Sr. in the second half, just to kind of make Banchero work a little bit more just size-wise. But like, this is Mobley we're talking about. Like, yeah, he was really, really good in this game. I think the Jarrett Allen news was very sudden. We got the context behind it, of course, leading into the game from JB Bickerstaff. But
we'll split. Let's say the context. Provide the context.
So in game 4 in the fourth quarter, The culprit remains unknown, so Baker staff believes it was either Carter Jr. or one of the Wagners. Elbowed Allen in the ribs, and Allen elected to play through it, and he was found to have a bruise on his right ribs. And if he were to play, he had to wear like some protective padding and things like that. But clearly was unable to play, and I think that's going to be something that worth keeping an eye on going forward. Just because I was watching Allen from the bench last night, like you could tell, like he was in pain, just because like he wasn't doing a lot of cheering or shouting or anything. He was very calmly sitting there, and I think just trying not to upset his ribs anymore, just because if you move, standing up hurts, breathing hurts, most things hurt, just because the ribs are kind of impacted by a lot of things. But yeah, like the news kind of hit around 1:30 p.m. when the Cavs listed Allen as questionable in their injury report, and then fast forward to game 5, and Evan Mobley's thrust in at the starting center, and I think played very well at that spot too, and also just showed like the Cavs just aren't completely locked into a singular identity of two bigs. Like they are clearly capable of going small, and this is a good instance of it with Mobley at the 5, and then you surround him with 3 shooters and Isaac Okoro, but like Okoro I guess was 2 of 6 from 3, but in this vein, like Mobley played very well, and again like just made some very clutch big time plays, especially in the closing moments of this game.
I think it says something how clean the offense just like felt with one more guy who wasn't like inside. Like there's something to that in this, in whether it's in the series or big picture, you can take that however you want. In the very least in the series, like there is some value in creating some extra space. The Cavs still don't come out looking like a great offensive team by any means. Like it's still I mean they had a lower offensive rating than Orlando did ultimately, which is buoyed by free throws, but the spacing looked a little bit better. They just had more room on the floor at times. And I mean, and Mobley did make the biggest play of the entire game. The block that he had on Franz Wagner will go down, and I think if particularly they win the series, will go down as one of the plays of the Cavs season. For him to contain Wagner by sliding with him and being even a half step behind him on that drive and then block him and meet him at the rim is a reminder of just how special that guy can be defensively and how this season in some ways like has felt lost because we didn't see that enough because he just didn't play enough.
Yeah, and I think more importantly, like Wagner got him 20 seconds before that and was able to get, I mean, still a tough 2, but after Donovan Mitchell misses a pull-up jumper on the other end, like Mobley locked in defensively and had like a very definitive statement block, and just it was a really big play just because like Wagner is a guy who has been giving Mobley a lot of difficulty this entire series. So I think emotionally speaking, like that's a pretty big win for Mobley personally, and obviously for the Cavs as well. But like you said, like this is a play that'll go down as one of the plays that defines Evan Mobley's season and also this Cavs season, because they are a defensive first team because of him. And just from how hard it has been to gauge Evan Mobley's overall season because of the injuries and everything, to see him make a big clutch time play like that kind of just reaffirms the belief that, like, he can be a franchise guy for you, and will step up when you need him to, because Wagner got him just on the possession before and he didn't let him phase him, so then he got Wagner back in an even bigger moment.
I mean, I think even just the times Paolo's hitting tough step backs over Mobley and it's trending that way. You could have seen like other defenders, I think, get frustrated by it, like kind of fade. Something that it's hard for us to know exactly when we see it. It's hard to know it can be easily overstated because sometimes it's just one game. I do think one thing we have learned about Mobley over the course of his 3 years is just the fact that guy has a short-term memory. That if you score on him, that if you beat him, it does not stick in his head and make him not try in the future. Other guys will be more cautious, make business decisions. Mobley doesn't really make business decisions in that way. He just tries to make plays. It's a huge asset if you're building with him as your center, or just you need him in a playoff series. That is a reason I think to bet on Mobley in some ways.
Yeah, and especially because he's a younger player, like it's really hard sometimes. Like just thinking of when I was his age, like if something didn't go right out, like it would be really easy for me to kind of get caught up on that and let that kind of deter my focus. But like you said, he is very much a one player at a time type of player or one play at a time type of player where like if it doesn't go his way, he just lets it roll off his back and he focuses on the next play. Or even if it does go his way, like sure he can celebrate briefly, but he lets it roll off his back and focuses on the next moment. Like, just having a guy that is that clutch and locked in defensively is a huge boon for Cleveland. And I think that's just kind of how he's always been as a player all throughout his time with the Cavs. And it's just nothing was a better example of that than just this big block he had on Wagner to seal the win.
Still need to win the series, but if they win the series, that will
emotional
be big
for sure. Like you got to feel a lot better about yourself after this game for Cleveland.
All right, after this, Darius Garland. Where was this guy for months? Talk about it. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's so much good stuff in the game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to compete for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own mini games like digging for treasure or a robot Panchico machine. I think I'm saying that right. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right, to wrap up the show, Darius Garland, 17 points in the first quarter. As aggressive as we've seen him, I would dare I say this entire season. Finished with 23 points, 5 assists, just 2 turnovers, 3 of 5 from 3, 9 of 16 from the field. So 6 of 11 on 2s and 2 of 3 from the line. I mean, Evan, this Darius Garland, particularly if Mitchell is what he is right now, and he's still getting you 28, but didn't hit a ton of threes in this game. I think maybe isn't totally 100. It doesn't seem a totally 100% right now. If you just watch him play, something feels a little off there. The Cavs needed this Garland, and whoever lit a fire under him, whoever got him going, whatever that was, whatever inside of him got him going, they could have used this a while ago, but I guess better late than never with Garland.
So yeah, for context, Donovan Mitchell was walking a little gingerly after the game, after he did his media availability. He did bang knees with Wendell Carter Jr. in the second half and fell to the floor and everything, but was able to play through it clearly. But it's something worth keeping an eye on just because I think it was the same knee that Mitchell had surgery on and missed so much time over too. But when it comes to Garland, yeah, like for him, he was aggressive, but he was aggressive to the point where he wasn't reckless with the basketball in his hand. Like, yeah, he had the 2 turnovers, but I think with Garland, you kind of have to assume that there are going to be some turnovers when he has the ball in his hand so much. But like, he came out guns blazing, swinging. I guess I have a quote from Donovan Mitchell actually in front of me. I'll share in a second just about his performance, but yeah, the fire kind of came from his teammates saying like they've been giving him a hard time about like you need to shoot the ball more, you need to be more aggressive, can't be so passive, you need to be an offensive threat, and you could tell it was kind of bothering Garland quite a bit. Ethan Sands from Cleveland.com like asked him about like what can he do to help the team, and Garland, you could tell, got very frustrated by that question, and he's just like, I know I have to shoot the ball more and I have to be more aggressive in terms of scoring and not so passive. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but like you could tell like it was getting to Garland, and I think he saw the ball go in early and it kept going. And Mitchell said like, well, people were asking like, well, what was your advice to Darius? And Donovan said, shoot, just keep shooting. And like, do not stop shooting it and go down swinging, because like the Cavs are a better team when Darius Garland is playing like that. And yeah, it wasn't a perfect game by any means or any stretch of imagination, but like you need this kind of player in Darius Garland to step up, just because Donovan Mitchell is starting to show this recurring issue against Orlando where he starts out kind of hot and then starts to taper off a little bit in the second half. I mean, he didn't go 0 of 4 in the second half in this game like he did in game 4, but you need this type of Darius Garland just to be like a counteraction to what Orlando is constantly focusing on with Donovan, to one, keep the defense honest, and two, just keep the offense moving a little bit. And if you can kind of capture this Darius Garland and, you know, hold on to it, like capture this moment in a bottle and let it loose in game 6, like that could be the way the Cavs finally steal and win in Orlando in this series. But I mean, yeah, we'll see. But Garland was very good.
How much do you think it helped that there just was only one big on the floor and that thus like there was just a little more room? Do you think that played a big deal in what Garland did or did not do?
I think it played a big part in just in general because the Cavs were going downhill to really open up this game. Like you could tell, like they were making a concerted effort to make pressure and create pressure at the rim, and then let that trickle out to the perimeter when Orlando overcorrects a little bit to focus on the interior, because it's not just the bigs attacking the basket, it's your guards and your wings and everything in between doing it as well. But yeah, I think it's just spacing wise, it makes it a little easier. Isaac Okoro, again, like you have to kind of think how far does the spacing go when he's out on the floor, just even though like he is shooting it when he is given those opportunities instead of being passive about it. But yeah, I think it does help a little bit just because like it opens up lanes, and Garland is a player at his best when he is allowed to drive downhill and kind of attack the basket and either draw contact and get to the line or try to finish at the basket. Like he still cannot hit a floater or a midi right now just because of the, I think, weight and physicality issues. But yeah, I think it just helps make things a little bit cleaner for Darius. I would assume you agree. That's why you brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think I start with the attitude, and the attitude is maybe the wrong word, but just like energy from him was better, and like that has been half, I think, the battle with this team and with Darius this whole year, is that nothing has totally nothing has totally worked with him, and it's just felt off. This is like the first time in months where it has not felt entirely off with him. And if you can bottle that, God bless. You're in business. I don't really still know where this team ends up, like beyond this series. I wouldn't really like their chances going forward with their like Porzingis, but I think like to get out of this series and to build some momentum going into the next round, that Darius is pretty vital. Anyone else you want to shout out? We talked about Morris, we talked about Mobley, we talked about Garland. Any other performances from this game, Evan, do you think deserve a shout? Yeah, that's the last one, because he was bad in the first half and then got really hot in the third, and that kind of bridged the gap offensively in a real way.
And it's not just that. I think what really impressed me most with Strus was he was hot. He was a perimeter threat. I think Orlando was very much, they've been aware of him the entire series. This is the first game he's broken double digits scoring wise. But I think for me, what really stood out is he had his 5 fouls, and he was a big part in helping Evan Mobley slow down Paolo Banchero and throw up an ill-advised mid-range shot. Mobley corrals the rebound, passes it up to Strus, who then kicks up to Marcus Morris, senior, on the perimeter, and Morris coolly and calmly hits a 3. Then immediately after that, Strus strips the ball from Banchero, who's bringing it up, and then throws it up ahead to a streaking Donovan Mitchell, who gets a quick layup. And those two plays got the Cavs right back into it because they were down 5, and it was like just a quick bang 5-point swing, and Max Strus is a catalyst of it. And it's because he was still playing aggressive, he was still playing tough, even though he had 5 fouls, and with the refs kind of being a little ticky-tack with some of these calls, like Strus didn't really let that get to him or phase him because he just stepped up to try to make winning plays, and that was a big thing. And I think he was a catalyst in those closing moments when things got super tight that helped the Cavs just keep fighting and keep swinging until the final buzzer sounded.
Good win for the Cavaliers. Physical performance without Jarrett Allen, who'd been your best player this entire series. And they're up 3-2 on the verge of advancing to probably face the Boston Celtics in the next round. Game 6, Friday in Orlando. If Game 7 is necessary, that'll be Sunday in Cleveland. I believe time TBD on both games as of now, but we will see. I would suspect Friday. We'll know sooner rather than later, because I think there's already two games scheduled on Friday. But that's going to be it for this Lockdown Cavs. Back to preview Game 5 ahead of Friday's game. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you then.